Marty.
Shh, you'll scare the fish.
But we're missing the big football game.
Relax. My VHS home video recorder is taping it right now.
Unless you've lived through the era, it's pretty difficult to concisely summarize exactly how impactful the VHS format was to several generations of people. But the legacy it left and the impact it had on popular media can still be felt regardless of age group. Your parents, some of which are probably around my age, I've just realized, probably have stacks of old home movies laying around. But more important to the content of this video is its impact specifically on the horror genre. To be honest, I don't have a lot of love for the format itself, but the aesthetics and both the creative freedom and limitations afforded by the format are real points of nostalgia for me and a lot of other people. And nostalgia is a window into our psyches, a place where our positive experiences rest and our fears and phobias take root. This brings me to the subject of my video today, Amanda the Adventurer. Developed by Mangled Maw Games and published by my friends over at DreadXP. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I used to do contract video and audio editing work with them, and I also received this game for free, so it's safe to assume that I'm biased in their favor. That said, I have full confidence that everything that I'm about to say is my own thoughts and opinions, and anyway, it's on this channel, so you already know that it's a recommendation. I've tried to be as spoiler-free as humanly possible, but spoiler warning regardless. So let me play you a clip that is permanently embedded within my memory. This splash screen is a totem representing the intrinsic power that intelligent branding has on people, particularly impressionable young kids like myself in the 90s. Until doing some background research for this video, I had forgotten that this sound existed, but it bookended the highly popular series of VHS tapes produced by Nickelodeon. These orange tapes had episodes of classic TV shows like Rugrats, Hey Arnold, you know, all the ones that we remember from our childhoods. Some of you who are slightly younger than me might remember them containing Blue's Clues and other assorted TV shows of the era. The point is, there is an entire generation of 30-somethings that will have extremely fond memories associated with this sound, and that particular flavor of nostalgia is where the tension of this game takes root.
Where's the birthday girl?
Usually my mom holds my treat money.
Amanda the Adventurer doesn't contain combat. Rather, it's a deceptively sophisticated point-and-click game, played from a first-person perspective and taking place primarily in the attic of the player character's deceased Aunt Kate's house. The player character, named in the introduction as Riley, is locked in an attic full of assorted trunks, safes, childhood toy robots that unlocked more than one core memory for me, and most importantly, a dusty old CRT TV with a built-in VCR which looks eerily identical to one I remember being in my cousin's bedroom. We'd watch Pokemon the first movie and I'd destroy him at Mario Kart 64. Good times. The core gameplay loop of Amanda the Adventurer consists of watching taped segments of the series, but rather than a happy and uplifting childhood cartoon like, say, Dora the Explorer, which Amanda sort of imitates in her question and answer format, it becomes obvious that something is extremely wrong in the world of Amanda the Adventurer. The player will use various bits of information found within these tapes to decode some deceptively clever puzzles, leading to another tape, which will require multiple playthroughs across 4 to 6 extremely high-quality hours to collect all of them. And there are a plethora of things to find across those multiple playthroughs. To be honest, I have 100% completed all currently available achievements, and I still feel compelled to go back into the game and just look for more. Thematically, the game overtly preys upon those buried pathways of nostalgia that link the stressed-out, probably burned-out adult to the innocent child that once was.
Who's ready for ice cream and cake?
She's busy with her best friend.
Is that show on 24/7?
It's like she didn't even hear me.
And is effective holistically throughout every fiber of the game, from the generalized creepiness of walking around in a dingy, untouched attic in the dark, to the way inserting a VHS tape cuts through the ambiance of a stormy night in an era before we were constantly inundated with the sights and sounds of the multiple screens we interface with each day. One of the highest points for me was the use of fine detail of period-accurate objects that you could legitimately find scattered around your aunt's basement, specifically of the different clocks. I can remember being a very small child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, and the sound of an old, round wall clock making a hammering tick-tock sound that bored its way into my brain. Residue from old stickers lines the face of the TV and will complete based on how many innings the player has gotten, And the many objects you can find held a lot of childhood anxiety for me. This oven, for instance, the foreboding atmosphere and general sense of unease elicit within the player a feeling similar to that felt the first time a child may have ever used an oven, especially if they had an old-school country grandmother like mine who allowed them to just chop on wood with a hatchet by myself when I was like 9. And that speaks to the efficacy of the horror atmosphere. Because while the game is not something that I consider scary in the remedial sense, I think expecting a game to make you jump and scream at every turn misses the point of effective horror. What this game does best to me is foster within the player a feeling similar to being a child whose biggest fear is of being lost and alone. And the narrative mirrors this idea in many respects as the story of Sam Colton and his adopted daughter unfolds and you uncover various tapes. The most intriguing of which will require you to do some unorthodox thinking to uncover, allowing you to increase your understanding of their lore. It's through this that we come across some themes that you may find disturbing or maybe even a little cathartic depending on how you choose to contextualize and interface with any trauma you've accumulated. Loneliness, abandonment, and implied child abuse come to mind, and there are some instances of animal death, albeit none of them are particularly graphic, so I don't think that should be a problem. I think the biggest potential trigger comes down to how Amanda treats Wooly throughout the game, but it's also an interesting motivator for the narrative at large.
Oh, it's you. Whatever you do, don't.
Oh no! Wooly had an accident!
She is downright abusive towards him. That part I expected. What I didn't expect was for the Wooly animations and voice acting to be so effective.
Amanda, this really hurts. When is the doctor going
The doctor isn't here right now. Let's see how we can help Wooly.
The sheer expressions of pain and horror just does something to me, which is a big triumph considering the era of animation the game evokes. Just as a warning, there's one scene that got to me and gave me a pretty visceral reaction. I won't spoil it, but I will say that when you're asked the question of who you will help, think very carefully. So ultimately, my review is that you should play it. Mechanically, the controls and concepts are simple enough that its puzzles can truly shine while simultaneously leaving the player feeling vulnerable and very much not alone. Now what's interesting is that this is the rare type of horror game that has the potential to cross boundaries of age. While its retro aesthetics, methodically paced and borderline analytic gameplay, and a heavy focus on technology that kids may or may not have any familiarity with at this point clearly targets millennials and Gen X, primarily, there's not much subject matter here that a kid couldn't handle, and what subject matter is there just might help a kid contextualize some of the things that they are going through. If Dread XP has had a miss, I've yet to see it. This company continues to put out some of the best horror games you can find, and this game is only $8.99 USD, so go pick it up and support independent creators and publishers when you can.